Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about economics and crypto and lots of other fun things. In this video, it's going to be pretty heavily crypto related with one stock related tweet. If you like this content, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification button, hit the like button, leave a comment in the comment section, all for the algorithm. But okay, let's go ahead and dive on into this. We have from Brett ETH. Okay, here's the reason why I actually want to share this chart. There is a compelling argument to be made. Should I say a compelling argument? There's a lot of reasons to believe that this time is actually going to be different when it comes to where and when Bitcoin peaks. There are reasons to believe that we are not going to peak in November, December of 2025. There are also reasons to believe that we would not have a typical bear market considering the wrench that's been thrown in this cycle, which is the spot Bitcoin ETFs, but also just lots of general accumulation from companies, places around the world that we can actually say, yes, this time is different. So the reason why I'm sharing this chart here, which let's read what Brett has to say. Give him a follow on X, by the way. He makes great content. Bitcoin, you're doing too much, bro. Trust the cycle. Days having to peak 525 to 546. Peak to bottom 364 to 371. Bottom to having 518 to 525. Bottom to top, 1,064, exactly 1,064, no range. Current cycle is a prediction using previous cycle's data. So let's just say this time around, it happens the exact same way. Given everything that's going on, everything that is so different about this cycle, if it were to happen exactly the same way, you know what? I'd prefer that. Let's just have this asset that we can predictably buy at the bottom and sell at the top. Yes, please. Can we just do that? Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I really do not think that's what's going to happen. But if it does, then sign me up, baby. Sign me up. Let's do this. My goodness. So could it be so simple? Let's pay attention. If this time around, let's say end of 2025, Bitcoin has peaked. End of 2026, Bitcoin has bottomed. Then let's just never lose faith in Bitcoin doing the same thing that it's always done. Let's never lose faith in that ever again. So we will see. Moving on, Dark Frost. I have a couple from Dark Frost here. A strong bullish signal from Binance Whales. The behavior of Binance Whales is quite surprising at the moment, as Bitcoin has once again confirmed its resilience by holding above the $100,000 mark. Typically, when Bitcoin approaches or surpasses its all-time high, Binance Whales take the opportunity to sell and realize profits, which is reflected by a significant increase in inflows to the exchange. When we look at and compare the monthly inflow volumes on Binance, we see that during the early 2024 top, inflows reached over 5.3 billion and even 8.45 billion and 7.24 billion during the previous cycle peak. These peaks were followed by short to medium term corrections. And so we can see the chart here. And in 2024, 5.31 billion. And at the end of 2024, 8.45 billion. That's a lot of profit taking, a lot of whale inflow at least. And in March of 2025, we thought was a retrace. A lot of people thought that was a retrace, 7.24 billion. But then look at the difference between then and now. This is a good sign that, what do we make of this? That this time we broke an all-time high again in May of 2025, and we're not seeing nearly that kind of exchange flow. We're not seeing whales take nearly as many profits. I mean, it's actually fewer profits than they've taken since November of 2024. So if we're going to keep on going like this, let's keep on keeping on. Absolutely. This is a good sign for medium term, short term, short term bullish momentum. Absolutely. And we've seen lots of signs like this, that the level of profit taking has been greatly diminished in comparison to 2024, both peaks in 2024. So moving on, also from Dark Frost, I'm sure you're starting to feel it. The greed settlement is settling in across the market with a rising hope for a strong performance from ETH in particular. We will take a look at the ETH chart at the end of this video. Looking at the fear and greed index chart, we can clearly see that we've entered the greed phase, but this isn't alarming yet. It's a necessary step in building up to euphoria and FOMO. So greed, sure. I don't feel particularly greedy. I have some stable coins on the sideline. I took some profits even. But sure, I could see us being in the greed zone. We shouldn't ignore it either. Historically, when this index reaches extreme greed, it often signals a local market top. Just a reminder, green and red candles are simply a reflection of the investor's emotions and sentiment. And okay, we are in orange territory. We entered red territory in April, March of 2024. We entered a red-ish territory in December of 2024 to January of 2025. This, you can see 2021 and end of 2020 into early 2021, we haven't experienced anything like this yet this cycle. But if you look at what we have seen, at least for Bitcoin, is more protracted lengthening phases of periods of greed, followed by minimal phases of periods of fear. In 2020, 2021, it was extreme. It was to the extreme greed. And then, I remember summer of 2021, extreme fear, and then extreme greed, some fear, extreme greed again. So this cycle looks different in that regard. Will we get to a point where we see extreme greed like what we saw at the end of early 2021? I don't know. This time might be different in that regard. But if we do, there's going to be a lot of excitement. There's going to be some of you who make 6 figures in a month, maybe even more than that. Depending, there's some of you who will make 100Xs if we can experience something like what we saw in 2020, 2021. So, moving on, Axel Adler, over the past 24 hours, short-term holders have been selling an average of around 21,000 Bitcoin via centralized exchanges, which is, again, another thing here, below the historical average level of selling pressure. This suggests that short-term holders are currently in a state of relative calm. That is, they are not rushing to lock in profits in mass. Despite Bitcoin's price appreciation, the next psychological milestone for any market participants will be the 120K level. As the price approaches this boundary, profit-taking activity is likely to pick up. Such reactions to have been repeatedly observed whenever round number prices are reached. So 120. Let's make our way up to 120. That would be very bullish. That would break a multi-year trend line. 120, you can see here, short-term holder P&L to exchanges, some 24 hours. A lot more at least. Short-term holder profit taking when we got up to 95, which makes sense because a lot of people, myself included, were pretty nervous about that 95K level. I don't know if you remember, I drew 2 lines in the sand. I said, we break through 95,000, I'm a bull. We hold it on a weekly close, I'm a bull. If we dump through 75,000, which was at that time the 50-week moving average, then I'm a bear. What happened? We broke through 95, I became a bull. And as soon as we had a clean break through 95,000, then it was off to the races. But at 95,000, the fact that short-term holders would be taking profits at that level absolutely makes sense to me because there was certainly a good chance that we were going to get rejected at that level. So lots of green, lots of profit taking throughout while we were hanging out at 95, got over 100 again, some profit taking, new all-time high, some profit taking. And here we are kind of close to that new all-time high, but short-term holders are just kind of chilling, So good sign for short-term price activity. Something that I found pretty interesting, very simple metric to understand. This is new Bitcoin whale? It's just, new Bitcoin whale addresses. So new, these are new whales. And what do we see for 2025? My goodness. This is a reason why, okay, let's go back to that first tweet here. That chart that we were just looking at, the new Bitcoin whale addresses, if there was ever a time that this right here in front of us did not play itself out, it would be now. It would be because of this. I mean, we're talking whales, all right? We're not talking 0.1 Bitcoin. We're talking multiple Bitcoin. I don't even know how CryptoQuant would define a Bitcoin whale, but this is not something to sleep on, not even close. All right, Xiao Wedson, I don't know what to make of this. So we have a Bitcoin accumulation trend heat map cohort. Xiao says that only the 100 to 1K holders are accumulating right now, and everyone else is in light distribution. You can see what he says here. The only ones accumulating Bitcoin are addresses holding between 100 and 1,000 Bitcoin. Everyone else is selling. That's right. Let's dive into on-chain analysis, blah, blah, blah. We'll start with the accumulation trend heat map cohort, which tracks the net change across various addresses ranges and compares it to 60 days ago to determine whether they are accumulating or distributing coins. Okay, so here's this chart. And here is Glassnode's. Now, Glassnode is from a week ago, but you can see, according to Glassnode, wallets of all sizes were accumulating last week. Who knows about this week? But there is a difference between that and this. This would communicate more distribution right now, aside from one major cohort. So what do we make of this? It can certainly be that their metrics of measuring this are just different. You know, the heat map cohort tracks the net change across various address ranges and compares it to 60 days ago. Okay, so I can see the difference actually now that I'm thinking about it. If certain cohorts were accumulating more Bitcoin 60 days ago than they are today, that means they could still be accumulating today, but that means that that it's going to show up as pinkish. But on the other hand, if a cohort is accumulating more than what they did 60 days ago, then of course, yeah, that's going to be pretty blue. So I'll take the Glassnode one more than this one. So interestingly, it becomes clear that only the Dolphins addresses holding 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin have been steadily accumulating throughout 2025. This cohort could represent companies, funds, or season holders positioning themselves for what's ahead. Next chart shows entire historical accumulation versus distribution behavior of the Dolphin cohort. And so you can see the Dolphin cohort since 2024 has been very heavily accumulating with very, very brief periods of distribution. So third chart shows that the balance held by addresses with more than 1,000 Bitcoin is declining. That shouldn't be a surprise. You know, this could be nerdy Austrian economist libertarian guy from 2012 who decided, you know, that Bitcoin that I bought for $2 in 2012 a piece, I'm going to sell some of that now. This is probably going to continue to go down over time. The selling pressure is just too great the higher it goes. So either way, the final chart focuses solely on the Bitcoin balance held by 1 to 1,000 Bitcoin addresses. It is rising rapidly. Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Xiao. And there's a way to reconcile these two charts. So something that might interest only me, I lived in Connecticut once. Connecticut passes HB 7082, banning the state from accepting, holding, or investing in Bitcoin or any virtual currency. Have fun staying poor, everybody. Have fun staying poor, Connecticut. I think it's funny. All right, let's move on. Moving on. Something that I found. Oops, Andrew Tate. Oops. So we have Andrew Tate just showed his hyperliquid trade that was 138.5% profitable to promote his refling. Wow, Andrew Tate, you are the man. This is your world. We are just a squirrel trying to get a nut. He apparently forgot that it was a deck, so his wallet was quickly found and discovered that he was actually $600,000 in the red. Now he has deleted his post. No comments needed from me. So here's where he is all time. He's a degen loser trader like the rest of us. Yay, Andrew Tate, you're not as amazing as you think you are. I don't know. That's funny. So congrats to nobody, I suppose. All-time P&L 597,000. But okay, moving on to the stock market. I consistently want to be showing charts like this because my bias is changing in real time right now. And what's my bias? My bias was that, okay, we are going to enter a bear market in the stock market in 2025, but it looks like we're putting in a V-shaped recovery. And it looks to me like we're going to have, much like 1999, an irrational pump to end this market before what I would say is something significant in terms of a dump. And so the signs were there. I've showed you charts like this all the time. And every time there's been lots of evidence of green in the S&P 500 in terms of forward returns. So S&P 500 after 2 months of gains of 20% or more, 1950 to current. We have 6 examples. And in the past, every time, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months later, every single time, the stock market has been higher by a range of 18.6% to 39.7%. So what's going to happen in 2025? We're going to have to wait and see. But I have a hard time now believing that this time actually is different. That'll be bullish for crypto, especially Bitcoin. But okay, everybody. All eyes are on Ethereum. 28.29, looking good, broken out. It got as high as about 28.80. So where do we go from here? We'll have to wait and see. I'll tell you guys this. I have a limit order at 27.17. That would be a back test of the previous range high. And if it gets there, if the market blesses us with a move down there, not financial advice, it would make a lot of sense to scoop up some Ethereum at that level. Not financial advice though, so you can't sue me or anything. ETH dominance is looking very good. Look at that. You can see this ascending wedge breaking out. Now 200-day moving average, is that going to be an issue? We'll just have to wait and see. Ethereum, Bitcoin, well, wouldn't you know it, also breaking out as it should. So ETH Bitcoin has broken to the upside of this wedge. We'll see where we go from here, but that's a good sign because Ethereum is being accumulated right now. Moving on to Bitcoin, what do we have for Bitcoin? 108,973 is the moment I'm making this video. I'm sure if I were live right at this moment, a lot of people would be like, oh no, do you think we're crashing? And I'm like, guys, we've had a good few days here. Let's take some time to cool off a little bit and reload for potentially another move higher. So anyway, that is all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week. I will most certainly be seeing you in another video. Peace.